Good morning, St. John's. And hello to the people online listening. We were going to have a video. Our very own Jay Mallon made a wonderful video, which we're going to make available, but we're having some technical difficulties. We were going to start with that, but we're not. So you have to hear me talk more. I just have to say, wow. 5 years ago, in my wildest dreams, I would not imagine that I would be standing up here in front of you in my wildest dreams, telling you guys that we're feeding 5,000 people a month, serving 50,000 pounds of food to our neighbors in need. It's astounding. And frankly, it's a miracle that it happened the way it did. When the pandemic broke, the men's ministry here at St. John's decided to do something. And in fact, we did. We started mass drives. We served food to first responders, but it wasn't enough. Several of us at St. John's, Ann Dursey and Lisa Reisner, notably spoke to our elected officials. We got together with them and other nonprofits on what we really could do to make a permanent, serious difference in our community that was hurting, no question. We decided to go for it, and we set up in August of 2020 in the parking lot of the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad. It's about a mile north on Old Georgetown at Battery Lane. In the parking lot, we didn't know what to expect. I certainly didn't know anything about food. I'm an author, right? And so this was something really quite new. We had 100 families came that first day. And there was from all of us, Bill and Langdon and Annalise and Tom, Jay, eventually Elaine and Beth, and many others at St. John's. It was a team effort, and it just started taking off. It started growing. It was shaky at first. We wore masks. It was tough. People were desperately in need. I remember walking down one time, 75 cars. I had to tell them we had run out of food. That was a low point. But we didn't know anything about serving food. We didn't really know much about what we were doing, but we did have faith. And I'm here to tell you that that's all you need to get something like this started. This faith has blossomed into one of the fastest growing and successful food insecurity programs in Montgomery County. And it was St. John's where this started. And still to this day at St. John's, it supports this effort so profoundly in so many ways. The faith and love that came out of this church that was started way back when in our discussions about vision process, or 10 years ago when Sarah was here and just beginning his ministry. The fruition of this was in many different ways, but this was one important part of what that. And I'm here to tell you that faith can move mountains, mountains of food, in this case, mountains of hope. So we started growing so fast because there was so much need, and so much need in the Bethesda area that wasn't being covered, that we needed to separate kind of officially from St. John's. So we became our own 501c3 organization. When federal COVID funds ended, and we were getting some support from that to buy food and such. When those funds ran out as COVID ran down, the county looked around at all the pop-ups that had started during during the pandemic, and decided that we were one of the only ones that they wanted to continue to support. So we get funding from the Montgomery County budget. We raise more than that they give us because it's expensive to do that. But we were off to the races. The tenets of our work are very simple. We work hard. We treat our recipients with respect. We give tools to our volunteers who do amazing work in our community. We build community one person at a time. Each recipient, each volunteer. We're a community. It's all of us together. The face of poverty in Montgomery County is complex and substantial. Our deputy director, Tammy Hooten, who's here, I'd be delighted to introduce you her in a second. We'll speak about this in a minute. We now serve the working poor, those who live in, can you, yeah, we have all, I know we have all kinds of great photos. Yeah, this was the stage here. And this is a sorting drill in this very room. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to race through all these. So if you can see this map over here, describes a 48 square mile area. This is what we call our geographic service area, right? So people who live within this area can come twice a week to the rescue squad and get a really wonderful bounty of food, about 30 to 40 to 50 pounds of fresh produce, shelf stable food, milk, eggs, wonderful offerings like that. We also serve, and we're a little unusual about that in the county, is that we serve people, we believe that there are neighbors too who work outside and come commute to this area to work. So we are treating people, people who come in when they're smocks from their restaurant jobs. We open up a back trunk and they're all the vacuums from the maids, and we get all the different service organization folks come in and they help, and they're part of our community. um, in addition, we serve in our area 2 senior low-income buildings, a men's shelter, a semi-permanent transitional housing unit. It's kind of known as used to be known as a halfway house. And we're supporting 4 schools too, in a very, very important program. What the video was going to get into, and I'll just nod briefly before I hand the microphone over, was that we started out, like I said, in August 2020 in the parking lot, and we were just outside, so we packed food into bags there. And then people lined up in their cars, sometimes 3 hours before we were open. 3 hours, lining all the way down Old Georgetown into Arlington Road. We had to hire 4 uniformed police officers just to keep everything organized. That was called a grab and go model. We just threw food at people and they drove off, right? And that's, in a crisis like a pandemic, is really effective. But as we moved out of COVID and we wanted to deepen our relationships with our recipients, with our neighbors in need, we moved into a reservation model. So we knew who was coming so we could order food. And just 6 weeks ago, we have launched the gold standard of, I'm just so proud of this, the gold standard of food pantries, which is the choice, we call it the choice market. In essence, we set up a shopping, a little marketplace. So our recipients can come in, and according to their family size, they can get a certain amount of food, and they walk through and they choose what they want. We can do ethnic food. We have fun treats. We can do all sorts of specials on things. Last week we had butternut squashes, wonderful butternut squashes. And that's a milk cooler you see there to the left. And we have produce, just arrayed, beautiful produce, vegetables and fruits, things that are very difficult to get, things that are very hard for our folks to find. Let me end on one story before I turn over. This is profoundly affected. Like I said, this is not a one-way street. This is what community is a two-way street. There's a wonderful man named Pedro, and we know so many of them are folks on first names as they know our names and our stories. And Pedro is a man a Latino man in his early 50s, tall, kind of portly. And he came in the other day, and I looked at him. I said, "Pedro, you look terrible." And I said, "You look like crap." But and he looked at me. He motioned me over, and he kept motioning until I was closer and closer. And he kept motioning until I was standing just a couple inches from him. And he moved open his shirt, and there was this surgical. Was still with the surgical black. Never forget that black thread. And he had just had a pacemaker put in, and he was very shaky. And I said, "Pedro, you got to sit down." He was pale. And he said, no, 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 just help me get my food to the car. So we helped him get his food to his car, and he got in the car. And I was talking to him, and what he was talking about, I suddenly realized he was not there to pick up food for himself. He was there to pick up food for the family in this hallway in his apartment building, the big family across the way that couldn't afford food, and for an older woman who was living alone and couldn't get out just down the hall. These acts of extraordinary generosity, they bring me to my knees. The extraordinary kindness and generosity that I witness every day, I learn, and I'm humbled by that. It's extraordinary what we live in and what humanity can look like when we can be there with it and be part of it. So thank you. I'm going to pass you over to Tammy, who is my our wonderful deputy director. Tammy.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you to St. John's for all the support. And as I look in this room, so many people that are here that come every week. And I thank all of you, and I thank you, John, for your vision. It's really my honor to be a part of this organization. Food insecurity and food waste is a passion of mine, and it has been honestly most of my life as I look back and recall the things that going to the grocery store when I was a child and seeing people in need and just not being able to sit with that. So it's an honor to be a part of this org. I take us back to the map because I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about what are the trends and what is food insecurity, et cetera. And you look at our map, and immediately, one of the first things that we're always asked is, Bethesda doesn't need help. We're not sure that Bethesda is really where the county should be putting their energy. And I want to pull up for you. This is the 2024 Feeding America Hunger Heat Map. And I know this starts to get really busy and a little wonky, and I'm not going to explain it all, so just go with me. I promise I didn't make it up. And I just want to show you that the dark red, it's a heat map. So the dark red indicates the areas of most need in our area. And right there, I have keyed in on the heart of Bethesda. And I want you to know that they indicate from the 2024 research study that they just did that this is the 95th percentile, 34.2% of people that live in that particular hex of their hunger heat map are food insecure. So may you rest easy that we are serving a very present need. And may you also then feel a little uneasy knowing that there are a lot of people right around us that really need us. And we really are the only org in this area of our capacity that is meeting that need. And that's really why we're here after the pandemic went down the county, realized, and they knew there were people here, and it was difficult for them to reach them. They had not made those inroads. So I'm going to continue on with the Capillary Food Bank Hunger Report. This was just released in September, so this is all late breaking. I'm not going to dive too deep, but the first chart with the 3 for the DMV, they just want to show you, coming out of the pandemic, there was a lack of information, right? There weren't, census wasn't being done. Everything was old, and trends that people had thought existed, demographics and need, et cetera. There was no one out there counting, and everybody knew that it had completely recalibrated in the pandemic. So Feeding America and Capillary Food Bank being our regional food pantry for this area, the DMV, has been doing primary research studies every year. And so you can see from 2022, with a 33% food insecurity rate, it went down a little in 23, and in 24, it's up. It's up to 37% in the DMV, and for Montgomery County, it's 34%. So if you've wondered and you'd considered, if you've heard and you've read, is it actually worse, or is that a misperception? The reality is it is worse. So who's food insecure? This is an incredible graphic that I really like. This is that they put together. They're working and they're largely educated. You can see here 76% are employed, that 29% have a college degree or higher, 29% some college. And I didn't bring up this graphic, but between 23 and 24, the largest percentage growth in our area of food insecure are in the middle income college educated. So something to think about, food, self-security, which is the ability to afford your rent or your mortgage, your, John was like, don't get into all these numbers, but gas and food and medical insurance, et cetera. In Montgomery County, for a family of four, to be self-sufficient, that is $122,000 a year. And I can back that up and send you with the research that's behind that. But when you hear that number, you can understand why it is the middle income that is now arriving at a point where they also, if the car breaks down, if something goes wrong, and an unexpected vet or health bill, et cetera, they need help. Food is one of the first things that becomes a little bit out of reach. 103,000 food insecure children, 27,000 of those are in Montgomery County. 44,000 food insecure seniors in Montgomery County. This is all from the capillary primary research study. So the only other thing I just want to leave you with is the difference between hunger and food insecurity. I think that's a question that people often have. And hunger is really that physiological, that your body needs food. That is hunger. Food insecurity is an economic indicator of folks that are struggling to put food on the table, the food that is healthy and what they want to put on the table for their family with regularity. And the USDA has 5 levels of food insecurity. So in these numbers of 34%, there are people that range from a little bit food insecure to extremely food insecure. For us, that doesn't really matter. And we don't income qualify. If you come to us and you say that you need food, it's our pleasure to provide you with food. So I'll leave you with that, a little sobering, not the fun part of the story. But here's Kathy to talk about groups.
I'm going to first get in Ann. Is Ann here? No, please come. Yeah, I'll have her come out. Yeah. So all know Ann. She has been with us and innovating from the get-go.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I wanted to have just a word as part of this presentation to tell you that Nourishing Bethesda is very special in a couple of ways that I think it's really important to recognize, because it sprang from the hearts of people here at St. John's. It was a ministry of this church. And what makes it special? Well, obviously, we're feeding a lot of people. We discovered a need, actually, in our community, and we're addressing it and helping a lot of people who need help. But that is not what's so special about us. There are many other really wonderful food distribution programs. But St. John's, from the get-go, from the day that we first conceived of this initiative, we had 2 objectives: to help people and to create disciples. That's church speak. What we mean by that, creating disciples, is to let people have a place. We have the ability to create a place, an organization, a program, where people who have in their hearts a desire to help others, a desire for connection with others, a desire to be in a community of caring people, and have a human relationship with the people we're feeding, okay? Right from day one, we said this is one of our goals. We have 2 goals: to help feed people and to feed people's souls. And we didn't just mean St. John's souls, because from day one, after we conceived of this food distribution idea at St. John's, the first thing we did was we reached out to the Rotary Club, to the Bethesda Chamber of Commerce, to Big Train Baseball, to partners in the community. Because when we talk about building community, we don't mean just amongst ourselves here at St. John's. We mean out there with our brothers and sisters and siblings in God. And so we welcomed from day one all the people that wanted to come and volunteer with us. And I can tell you, when we were standing out in the cold with those bags and our masks and throwing, food in trunks, people would come up to us and they would say, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And when they learned what we were doing, they said, "Can I help?" One guy put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a handful of cash and said, "Here." I mean, people were hungry for the ability to help and to do it in community with other caring people. And everybody who volunteers at St. John's knows that that's our ethos. And you know that you have connection and you're treated as a human being yourself, and you're encouraged to treat everyone else in a very Christian way, although it's not a Christian evangelical organization, but we're living the gospel. It's faith in action. So what is what is Nourishing Bethesda's motto? Caring and, you should know, those of you volunteering there, right? Caring and community. And when we say it, now you know what we mean. And I'll just close with a story of a wonderful volunteer who came to me once and asked me to have lunch with her. She's not from St. John, she's from another church. And she said, I just wanted to sit down with you and tell you how incredibly unique I find this organization. She said, I've worked with many organizations out there, many nonprofits as a volunteer. I've never been in a place where there's been so much spiritual development and spiritual growth and radical generosity and connection between people. And I said, well, you probably weren't working in faith-based organizations. And she said, oh, no, I have. But this one is really, really unique in that respect. So thank you, St. John's. We need to keep up this good work. I think, as Tammy showed with the statistics, the need is not going away, and it might get worse. So we have our work cut out for us, but you'll all grow. You'll grow in your souls. So thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Kathy Higgins, one of our parishioners, who is our Director of Community Outreach. Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. Anne's comments are a perfect segue into what I want to talk about, which is at St. John's, we like to say we're building community at the crossroads of faith and life. And at Nourishing Bethesda, we are about caring and community. We're committed to building community by offering meaningful, hands-on volunteer experiences for individuals and groups, people of all ages and abilities. And I'm just going to focus this morning on the community partnerships we have and the community group activities that we do. So it's a central part of our mission to develop volunteerism in our community and to bring all kinds of organizations. And we're not just talking about faith-based, but businesses, civic groups, schools, clubs, other nonprofits, bringing them into the work that we do, and to have neighbors help neighbors, and to educate our volunteers about food insecurity so that they become allies and advocates in our fight against food insecurity. So in the last couple of years, since I became the Director of Community Partnerships, we've had over 70 unique groups come and work with us in one way or another. And we've well, all to the better to help our neighbors, right? And many, many new groups this year, but also many returning groups who come back year after year because they find the work meaningful and they find it fun. And they know that it's an important thing for them to do. So just a few examples of the kind of community activities and volunteer experiences that we offer. One is a gleaning or harvesting at Sandy Spring Gardens. We've done this 2 summers in a row, 3 different sessions. It's a great activity for all ages, harvesting tomatoes, potatoes, green beans, I think maybe squash this summer, and everybody just loves it. It's a, really get your hands dirty, hands-on fun activity. And what I love about it too is because we have lots of different organizations that participate, they're building community with each other. Next one, Tammy. So food packing is one of our oldest offerings, and we twice a month have groups come in to the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad, and they're packing food for offsite delivery. John talked about how we're still delivering to offsite locations. They're also packing weekend bags for eligible elementary school students at 4 schools so that those kids have mini meals and snacks, so we make sure that they eat over the weekends. They're packing bread and bagels that we've recovered from local bakeries. So instead of being in landfills, they're on people's tables and filling people's stomachs. So this is a really popular activity. It's so popular, we are booked all the way through January, and I'm already making reservations for groups to come out and do this at the Rescue Squad into February. And I should pause here and say that St. John's has been involved pretty much in every type of activity that I'm talking about today, either individual parishioners or groups. You guys have touched all of this at one point or another. And at these events, we always pause and talk to groups about food insecurity, what Nourishing Bethesda is doing about it, and how they can help being part of the solution. So food drives, we really put on a big push this year to increase the number of community food drives. And boy, have we had a lot. So thanks to many organizations, we're on track to at least triple the amount of food collected through food drives. We've already collected over 13,000 pounds of food, and that translates into a savings of about $25,000, which means we can use that money to buy things to distribute that we might not be able to. So maybe we can give protein one week, we can give milk, and that kind of thing. So it's a very tangible thing for people to do. And it also fits into our choice pantry model, because when you do a food drive, you get a huge variety of types of foods. And then we can offer those varieties, those choices to our clients when they come to the choice market. So when we get all of that food through food drives, it all has to be sorted. It has to be checked for its best by date. It has to be checked to make sure it's in dignity condition. It can't be a torn package or a really dented can. And then it all has to be inventoried, and it has to be stored in the pantry that's right here in the basement of St. John's until it can be transferred to the rescue squad for distribution. And we do that right here in the parish hall about 6 times a year. We bring in a group, and this was Marriott International just last month. And we fill those. There are 3 bins, and when they're all full of food, it weighs about 2,500 pounds. And so it all gets sorted, it gets boxed and inventoried, and it's a really great activity. It's a lot of fun. Lastly, I wanted to mention snack bags. So this was Washington Episcopal School back in January. They had a school-wide, you can see they have the whole gym set up. They took brown or white paper lunch bags, they decorated them, they filled them with healthy snacks like oatmeal and granola bars, popcorn, and then we give those as extras to our clients, because who doesn't love snacks, right? And when you're busy, you're working, maybe you didn't have breakfast, maybe you had to skip lunch. Snacks can really make a difference, healthy ones, to get people through the day. And I wanted to mention Washington Episcopal School as a particular example of what I really am striving for, Nourishing Bethesda is striving for. We do some volunteer group activities that are pretty transactional. A group finds us on the internet, they says we want to do a food drive, they do their food drive, they drop it off. Maybe they only do that for us once. That's great, we'll take it, we love that. But when we can really develop a relationship with another organization, when we're really developing that community. And so Washington Episcopal School did find us on the internet. They asked for a group activity. I suggested snack bags. They had me go out and speak at chapel to all of the students and faculty. Then about 2 weeks later, we did the activity. And then the 5th graders wanted to study homelessness. So they invited me back to teach a lesson on the intersection of homelessness and food insecurity. And then they said, we have a relationship with this really large food bank, and we do this annual food drive. But actually, we don't really have a relationship with them. It's really transactional. What we give to them is a drop in the bucket. They don't have the time of day for us. How about we move our food drive and give it to you guys? Because we can have a relationship with you, and we can do activities throughout the year with you. We can really get to know you, and vice versa. So that's always for me, the gold standard when we have a relationship like that, that is multifaceted, that is not merely transactional, but it's a true partnership. And I also love all the work that we do with student groups. And we do a lot of work with schools and student leaders, because we are teaching the value of service. We're imprinting that on them. We're teaching empathy. We're teaching kindness. We're educating students who may come from a very privileged background to understand that it's not like that for everybody. So, and the church school here has been great. St. John's has been great. So many activities. I was speaking to the Right Through Teen class just last week, and they got to see the pantry. J2A class is coming in December right here to sort food for us. So thank you very much.
We might have a couple minutes for questions before we get to that. Wanted to give the opportunities to say how you can get involved if you were so inclined. Want to talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities?
Sure. We have a sign up genius that you can find. You can click on a link on nourishingbethesda.org, our website. There's 4 shifts every week with a lot of openings. Trust me, a lot of opening. There's also a wait list. So if it's a popular section, you can put your name on the wait list, and we have to pull off the wait list every week. Something, comes up always. So encourage you to go on there, and we're just really excited to maybe see some more of you. It's really a rewarding experience to come in particular with the choice market. You just see the joy and you're really interacting with the clients.
And I just had to add that there are jobs for everybody. If you want to come in and lift heavy boxes, we got jobs for that. We have other folks who come in and sort bread and they sit down the whole time. And it's a very gentle experience. But we give you a discrete, 2 hours, 3-hour period. And I guarantee you that any of those jobs, you will really make a difference, but you will also be very engaged with our clients and you will see how it works. Literally. Good. And I would be amiss if I didn't make one pitch. I'm getting better at this. To say that we are nearing the end of the year and we can also use your financial help. So please think about giving generously. Our dollars, if you give us $1, we translate that into $5 worth of good help to people. Right. So that means that if you walked into a grocery store with $1, we would be the equivalent of walking into that same store with $5. So 5 times the amount of that and buying food. We can translate that. That's what we are good at. Buying in bulk, getting free food from local farmers, from the USDA, and the Capital Area Food Bank. That's what we do. We translate the wonderful dollars that we receive. And as I said, we get some money from the county, $250,000, but we need almost twice the amount more than that on top of that we raise through individuals and groups. So we need to count on you. So please consider giving generously. It will make a difference. And you just have to come out for 5 minutes to see how that's happening, and you will know, and you will see, you'll feel it. Thank you. We have little time for questions before we have to move on. And
2 unrelated questions.
I think maybe I think we probably for our folks online. Yeah.
Do you still need people who speak Spanish or other languages? Number 1. And number 2, are you planning to do an Advent food drive at St. John's?
One of the great new things for us, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, is that we live in an environment of many different cultures and many different languages. At Waverly House, which is right in near Roundhouse Theater, and that we serve. When we went out to determine, as Tammy mentioned, there are 5 levels of food insecurity. To determine food insecurity, we had to translate a survey into 7 different languages just to get, and that was not even getting all the different languages spoken in that one building. So 45% of our folks are Latino, pan-Latino, and so we have a need, because we always have need for Spanish speakers. So yes, and we would just love to have that. We have some need for Mandarin speakers. We have some Mandarin speakers and some other languages too, but primarily Spanish was something. Thank you. And then the Advent food drive, I don't know if we're doing that, but we have to talk about, we would love to. I think that's the answer. Yes. A couple years ago, we had a wonderful thing for the kids. We had a food Advent calendar. Yes, a reverse Advent. So you open a box and you saw, well, a can of corn. So the kids got to go get a can of corn. And by the end, of Advent, we had just this wonderful, every family had a wonderful bag of food to deliver. This was really just terrific. David, can you speak into sorry, just so that the folks online can hear you?
2 questions. One, you create that grab and go market every week. You have to recreate it, like you have to build it again every week. And so I guess the related question there is, are you looking for like a more permanent space where you can recreate that? And do you need help finding a permanent space? That's the first question. The second question is, your growth has been amazing. Is there also talk about franchising, telling other churches how to duplicate this effort and kind of, so it's not just, I mean, like, I know Bethesda Magazine had a struggle with their name Bethesda Magazine because, it was hard to reach out to different parts of Montgomery County, and then they kind of changed their website name to Moco 36. I mean, is there a way to uncouple it from Bethesda, St. John's, and kind of franchise it out so other churches can do the same thing?
You want to speak to our house?
Sure. So we rent 3 days a week at the BCC Rescue Squad, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so every week we roll all of those fridges and racks of food. We roll them out on Wednesday and Thursday. And then on Friday, while we serve clients all day, we are also breaking it down. I'm looking at Richard and Craig and some folks that are there really helping us, Lou, break it back down and put it all back away again. So yes, we roll it out and we put it away, and we spend a lot of time doing that. And so indeed, long-term, Nourishing Bethesda needs to have a permanent home to serve this community. It needs to be in Bethesda, serving the need that it was not being serviced here. So that is a goal, absolutely, for sure. I'm going to let you speak.
And then, yeah, I guess David's second question about, we've fielded some calls from other groups all over the place about how we do what we do. So we've been very careful. We're writing up a big thing about our standard operating procedures, and really kind of looking at kind of quantifying what we do and how we do it, because we do kind of down the line want to think about how we can help replicate this in other communities. And most definitely. In the meantime, we're doing a lot of feeding here. So we're trying to keep a balance on that. But yes, absolutely. That looking for a new place and what David mentioned, replicating this for other people are really kind of key long-term things that we're really engaged with.
I think I would say also that I think we do a very good job of collaborating with other nonprofits, Wider Circle, the Families for Families, et cetera. And so if another org were to come and ask for some advice, we'd be very happy to do that. And we've leaned very heavily on getting advice from Manna and Interfaith and others. And so I think we're very open to provide and also receive that sort of feedback and collaboration.
Terrific. Any other questions? We have some wonderful, our Faith in Action folks have put together a really lovely brochure about what we do. So please make sure you take that, and maybe a magnet or something like that when you leave. Some of our cards are here. You can always go onto nourishingbethesda.org and see it online and sign up to help. Lizzie, I think you want to come up here, or you want to, yeah. Or I can repeat the question. Please, Lizzie.
Would you say then in response to David's question about replicating this, that maybe the first thing that you need to do is to find a place that is yours in order to, I mean, it seems to me that that would be the first step.
100%, yeah.
Is that a question?
Well, Lizzie, just absolutely, we're working with what we do, but as a organization or a business grows, you realize choke points on kind of that's limiting what you can grow. We want to do a whole lot of classes. A man came to one of our recipients that I know, said to me the other day, said, "John, I want to be a part of the middle class. How do I do that?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And, well, I want to know how I can get a mortgage. What is credit? So fiscal literacy is something we want to move into. What we're all about is food insecurity is the tip of the iceberg. If you're food insecure, you're dealing with so many other things, including a lack of awareness of what resources are out there for you to do, right? To use. So back to Lizzie's thing, we can have classrooms we can bring in, and we've done some English as a second language. We've done some of that already. We're working with people. We've trained volunteers on how to help people with SNAP benefits. The food stamps federal form is a nightmare to fill out. You make a small mistake, you get kicked off, you have to start it again. So we have all kinds of ways which we've identified that we want to help out, but we don't have a lot of the physical place to do that. So it's constraining us, our ability to grow. I'm not complaining because we're really working really well and using our resources available to us. But I think that there's coming a time when we can take that next leap to really, really help. What we're always asking ourselves is, where is the need? Every day we ask that and we adjust what we're doing. Where is the real need? And having more space, it would help us address that most definitely. Thank you, Lizzie, for speaking what is really on my mind so much these days.
I feel like I just want to let everyone know that next week is one of our big initiatives. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be handing out special Thanksgiving packages. So in addition to the 30+ pounds of food that is the average that most of our families walk out with, they're also going to walk out with a tin with a 10-pound roaster chicken, stuffing, gravy, cranberry, an entire Thanksgiving meal, a pie. We collaborate with many groups to do that. And it's a very special time of year for us. We feel very strongly that as a food pantry, Thanksgiving in particular is one of those places where they can walk out and feel a bit of abundance from when we can provide them with more. So that, when we're thinking about this week, what are we doing? That is a big lift for us in addition, and we'll do it the next 2 weeks.
She mentioned chickens, not turkeys. Our clients don't want turkeys. They want chickens. They cook better. They are just much more popular. So that's what we're about too, right? Not imposing cultural norms on people, and it's specifically just underscore that with Tammy, what Tammy said. Our folks that we are dealing with live in scarcity, and Thanksgiving is all about abundance. So they stagger out of Nourishing Bethesda with so much food, and it is a joy to see their feelings that they don't have to worry about food and they can have this wonderful, rich assortment of really terrific food. And it's just an extraordinary thing to witness, and a gift that builds our community beyond when they're picking the pies that they want. See faces. This is about our community making it stronger, one person at a time. Thank you all so much for coming today.